This is the Morning Tailgate.
Deuce! Goodbye! Into the end zone! 60 yards! Touchdown Raiders!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker.
It's the trifecta for Bowers! His third touchdown of the game! And the Raiders with a chance to win it!
On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Fire up the cue, grab a beverage or two, and settle in. This is the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignore, and Clay Baker coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Monday, August 24th, 2026. And it seems, at least on this Monday, a sigh of relief can be felt amongst Raider Nation. We'll get straight to the news of the day. Over the weekend on Sunday, mid-practice, Ashton Jeanty leaves the field early after going down awkwardly, being helped with trainers. And after a few hours, reports say maybe not as bad as originally feared. Insiders are calling it a high ankle sprain, length of time to be determined, but it is believed to be on the shorter term compared to the long term. But what could have been, what may still be a transformative day at Raiders HQ on Sunday for the Raiders, their hopes, dreams, the optimism and excitement, and everything they wanted to establish early on in season number 1 under head coach Clint Kubiak. The Raiders seemingly dodged bullet in terms of what could have been. Obviously, we'll wait for official confirmation, and Clint Kubiak's not supposed to meet with the media again until tomorrow. Team did not put out a statement or anything of the sort Sunday after practice. So, again, seemingly not the worst news, I guess, is how we'll qualify it, but the Raiders may have dodged a big-time speed bump of what could have been the start of their season.
Well, Vince, we like to talk about DEFCON 1 and DEFCON 5, right?
Yes.
Here with the Raiders. DEFCON 5, just to reiterate, because I always need the refresher, DEFCON 5 is normal peacetime readiness, lowest state of worry or threat. DEFCON 1 is maximum readiness, cocked pistol, nuclear war, or direct attack on the U.S. is imminent or underway. It's definitely not DEFCON 1. I wouldn't say DEFCON 5. I'd go DEFCON 3 at this point. Air Force and select military forces are ready to mobilize. Within 15 minutes, radio transmissions shift to secure protocols until we find out really the extent of the ankle injury, because there's degrees of all that. We all know that. And he is a running back. I mean, anytime you're talking about a high ankle sprain or a ankle sprain, I'm not going to classify it just yet on which one it is. We'll find out here pretty soon, or to some extent pretty soon. I would say that it was at DEFCON 1 yesterday. There was no question about that. I think everybody was on alert. Everybody was sitting at the edge of their seat, wondering what exactly happened to Ashton Jeanty. He's one of the more, indispensable, weapons on this Raiders team. Somebody that the Raiders are really counting on majorly this season, and we all want to see him out there doing his thing. Kind of a dark horse offensive player of the year type candidate based on this offense, where the offensive line is, all of that. But to your point, it looks like the Raiders, thankfully, dodged a little bit of a bullet, and we can take it off DEFCON 1 and probably secure their DEFCON 3, DEFCON 4-ish at this point.
All right, so let me paint the picture from what I saw at practice yesterday. It was the first time the Raiders moved indoors that the media was able to go and watch. They've had a couple practices during camp that has not been open to the media. Not sure if they've been indoors. My belief is this was their first time indoors, at least with our eyeballs. And towards the end of practice, I would say a little bit more than 2/3 of the way through, they're in team drills, starting offense against starting defense out there. Kirk Cousins drops back. Ashton Jeanty runs a flat route, swing route to the far sideline. The pass is low. And again, from my angle, difficult to kind of see precisely what took place, But my eyeballs tell me there was some type of collision. The ball was low. Jeanty looked to contort his body, kind of bend down low. And as he twisted to bend down low, a little bit of collision with Darian Porter. He goes down awkwardly, was down for about, I would say, 20 to 30 seconds. Trainers go down. He gets helped up from not one but two trainers. Zero weight on that right leg as he gets helped off into the gym and obviously into the medical room. I will say this. Unfortunately, I've seen a few injuries take place at practices and things of that nature. Vinny and Clay, I know you have as well. This is the first time I saw an allotment like we saw, which again, with the Raiders, we're still at, 90 guys basically on the field, right? This is the first time I saw every single guy drop down to a knee. They turned off the music for a solid 15 to 20 seconds. Everyone got down on a knee and prayed. And then it was a slow build back up to practice, and they had to continue to get their work in. Mike Washington took over with the ones, but when you talk about DEFCON, all that, scary situation because again, where we were standing watching the play, you didn't know what it was. You didn't know if it was an ankle, if it was a knee, if it was just the leg in general, whatever it was. So hearing that it and my understanding is as well that it is an ankle. It's never good because, as you pointed out, running back, you need those too, but it feels better than the alternative in terms of the knee or what have you. Again, no official confirmation or word from the Raiders on anything just yet. Clint Kubiak's supposed to meet with the media. The next time he's supposed to meet is tomorrow. But we wait, and as soon as there is brand new news or confirmation of any sort, we'll bring it to you. But that is what I saw inside the indoor facility. Again, it was a very spirited practice up until that point. Very different vibe than just being outside. It felt like things were moving quicker in and out of drills and periods and things of that nature. But, it all came to a standstill late in that practice when number 2 goes down. And, again, hoping nothing but good things for him on a personal level, for the team, for the franchise. We talk about Fernando a lot. We talk about all the new additions. It's kind of crazy, guys, but, as much as we've talked about Ashton Jeanty, we might not have talked about him enough in terms of the importance. We've seen what it looks like in terms of Brock Bowers when he is in the lineup and when he goes out. But Ashton Jeanty not being available at any point in the season is going to prove to be an uphill battle no matter how you slice it moving forward. Maybe that's a cart before the horse in terms of looking too far ahead, but now you have to – it's like looking at your own mortality if you're the team, right? Like you're looking at, if we don't have him, what does this look like? And so that is also a massive question. I could tell you those inside the building yesterday were chomping at the bit for information. I could see many coaches yesterday towards the end of practice checking phones, going up to each other, having quick little conversations, looking for updates, basically trying to figure out where they are. And again, because of the new way they scheduled practice, Vinny and Clay, we heard from players before practice, so we didn't get to talk to anybody afterwards. Today will be the first opportunity to hear from anybody following what took place on Sunday.
Yeah, and a couple of things. Number one, the reaction from the team tells you everything that you need to know about how the team feels about Ashton Jeanty, and it goes beyond just the player. It was obviously, Vince, as you said, an ominous situation. Number one, they care deeply about Ashton Jeanty. He's extremely popular. He's a professional. He reports to work. He's quiet, but he's a hard worker. He's emerging as a leader. All of those things play into the reaction. Anytime you see one of your brothers go down, it's going to be a heartfelt moment, especially when it's somebody like Ashton Jeanty. The other side of that coin is that he is extremely important to this football team, and the players understand that as well. That's one of their guys. That's one of their dudes, and you hate to see that anybody go down like that, especially somebody that you're counting on as big, as the Raiders are. So then there's also that factor, and we haven't been talking necessarily a lot about Ashton because I put him him in the given category.
Right.
He and Brock Bowers are the givens. We know that. You just do your job, and he's going to do his. You don't even have to worry about it. As long as everybody else in and around he and Brock Bowers are doing their job, those guys are going to shine. That's how they're built. That's how they're wired. That's what they're capable of doing, and so they're a given. There's one of those things that we don't even need to talk about those guys. Everyone else, just do your job. They're going to be fine. So now, saying that, the anticipation, at least on my end, and I know people in the building, and I know people around the league are like, get ready for the Ashton Jeanty show because that's coming sooner rather than later. And so there was this great anticipation for that as well. And now that may get put on ice for a little while. I mean, I think in this situation, Vince, and love to hear your thoughts and Clay's thoughts, I think you almost have to assume, not the worst. I'm not trying to say that, assuming the worst, like he's going to be out for, this amount of weeks or anything like that. But just have to assume that, hey, we may be dealing with a banged up Ashton Jeanty or a less than Ashton Jeanty, or maybe no Ashton Jeanty to start the season. And we have to start preparing for that possibility. And then that goes directly to what's right behind him, and very fortuitous that one of the guys that we have been talking about all training camp is a guy by the name of Washington. And oh, by the way, he just happens to play running back. And oh, by the way, I don't know if he's leading the NFL right now in rushing during the preseason, but he has to be among the top runners in the preseason. He's been getting the job done. So if there's any silver lining whatsoever, it was the foresight of John Spytek and his group to draft Mike Washington in the 4th round when he already had a great young running back in place in Ashton Jeanty. But as we always know and we always learn, what that depth chart looks like today could look a whole lot different. And I'm not even talking about 5, 6, 7 months down the road. I'm talking about 5 minutes from now. It could look entirely different based on one play, one rep in practice. The whole picture changes. And so therefore, when you do draft a Mike Washington, and you might say, why would they do that at that point in the draft? Well, here is your answer.
And how much of this identity of the offense is going to be affected because they wanted to make sure that they predicated an emphasis on the run game, and they kind of tailored things around what a running back can do and the run blocking that we were able to see so far in the offensive line in these early showings. So how much will the identity of this team change, or will there be kind of like a situation where you see a lot of different running backs kind of come in to kind of stem the tide of what Jeanty could offer as far as production?
Well, I'll take it one step further, and I'll say they do need to act like it is worst case scenario. The Raiders do need to operate right now like it is worst case scenario for Jeanty, because they need to get, for all the reasons we have discussed and heard Clint Kubiak how many times say throughout this training camp and preseason, we need to get these young guys up and running because they're going to be part of this thing moving forward in the season. Now more than ever, with a guy like Mike Washington Jr. And to your point, Vinny, Mike Washington Jr. second in the league right now in preseason rushing yards, 15 carries, 119 yards, right? Averaging just a shade under 8 yards per carry. Again, not a giant sample size, but it goes to show you of all the football that's been played, of all the guys that have been toting the rock, which a lot happens in the preseason because, one, teams are trying to get out of there. 2, you're trying to figure out, what you have. It says something that he's one of those guys that, a couple big runs will help do that. And so he shined without question in the preseason. But if you're the Raiders moving forward, and that's the conversation I think we have to have today and moving forward, is what is the plan now in place as we wait for word? Because we're not going to speculate on time, right? Like we've seen the reports. It's not believed to be long-term for Ashton Jeanty. Believe that they've dodged a bullet. It's an ankle, not a knee. All those things are positive as opposed to negative. But we don't know when he's going to be back. And when he is not just the bell cow, when he's the guy that Clint Kubiak says could have a Christian McCaffrey type effect, this is a guy that you expect to be a large chunk, a large piece of your pie of your offense. And so you can't just throw him back in there at 60%, 70%. So what is the plan moving forward? So that's why I do believe in it. You have to operate like this is worst case scenario, because that running back room is thin. And I think that's putting it lightly beyond Ashton Jeanty.
Yes, when you have a guy like Mike Washington, it's not as thin as we might think. And I've been really bullish on Dylan Laube, not as a down in, down out back, but I've seen enough from Dylan Laube to think that to really believe he's going to have a role on this team. So now Mike Washington, for now, becomes the guy. And how many yards did he say he had right now? 115
about 49.
yards. $1.49.
Or, sorry, 119.
119 yards on 15 carries. That's a hell of a lot better than 15 carries for 38 yards, all right, which is what kind of we've been dealing with around here for a while. So, number one, you got that. Number two, it's not just the preseason for Mike Washington. It's day in and day out at practice. Even in Houston, he was one of the shining lights during practice and against, a tough, rugged Houston Texans team, and sometimes he was getting first-team reps. He scored a touchdown, I believe, or got pretty close on one. He was running really hard during practice. It wasn't just the game. So this isn't just, oh, wow, Mike Washington, haven't been talking about him throughout training camp, and he goes out there and has a couple of nice games against some backups. No, this is a guy that took the momentum that he had been building throughout practice, throughout the spring, quite honestly, into games, and he's checked off that box. So he's checked off every box that he needs to check off to date, and that's why I feel pretty good about, now behind those two running backs, yeah, now you're talking about a little bit of obviously lack of depth, but any team that's going to go into your third, fourth running backs after that, you're getting tested. So I would say this, of all the positions at this point, thanks to drafting Mike Washington, that you are going to go down one of your top guys based on what we've seen on Mike Washington. Knock on wood that he stays healthy now. I think you're in pretty good hands right now to weather that storm.
Yeah, Clay, was interesting. We've been talking about how Mike Washington Jr. seemingly has carved himself out a pretty nice role behind Ashton Jeanty, right, considering his training camp. But now with this injury, that obviously changes in a massive way. And when you talk about over 300 touches, Ashton Jeanty had his rookie season. Mm-hmm. Over 1,300 yards of offense and 10 touchdowns on one of the worst offenses, if not the worst in many categories, in the National Football League a season ago. The disparity between Ashton, even though he's just going into his second year, right? And Mike Washington right now is just potential. Talked to him a couple times now during training camp. I really like what I hear, obviously like what I've seen. And I feel like, again, in this short sample size, he could be ready for some expanded role early on, at least until Ashton gets ready. But that disparity right now, today, on August 24th, is large, especially when you look at other positions. If a guy goes down, there's veterans and things of that nature. Like, I like Dylan Lobby as much as the next guy, right? And I've talked about how I think Dylan Lobby's gotten more run on offense than he has the first two
yes.
training camps combined. Mm-hmm. Just this. So obviously the coaching staff likes him, but again, in terms of what is quote-unquote proven, and again, Ashton has just 1 year under his belt, but what he proved was a whole hell of a lot. The disparity right now is large. Mike Washington can change that narrative quite a bit in the next couple weeks with getting online, but Clint Kubiak has said many times when asked about the rookie runner, he's got a long way to go. He's still got a lot of things he's got to learn.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, and even though we also hear at the same time of when he was drafted that he was a scheme fit. He was somebody that ran similar concepts while he was in college last year, and he was somebody that, when we see how good the offensive line has somewhat improved, he has been the beneficiary of that with some long runs. And maybe this is one in which we don't really know the kind of commodity that we have in somebody, speaking from the Raiders' point of view, as a fourth-round pick. But Kubiak might have a better idea of the kind of talent he has, because you go from a first-round pick that Jeanty would be to a fourth-round pick, you feel like there's going to be a major drop-off.
Right.
Maybe there's not that major of a drop-off here when you think of the kind of production we've seen so far, but also the way that he can be used. And quite honestly, maybe there's even more talent on the other end, on the back end of this, to actually go and kind of supplant a running back room that has more depth. And I'm thinking of Agumbawale to Roman Hemby. Maybe they might find other roles as we start to see what this preseason looks like, and depending on how long he might be out, they might be relied on as well.
Here's what I would say about Clint Kubiak saying he's got a long way to go. I've already auto tuned, or whatever you want to call it. Anytime you ask Clint Kubiak about a young player, he's got a long way to go. Yeah. So I'm not taking it with a grain of salt by any means, but I've seen enough to know that he's got a long way to go. All rookies got a long way to go, but I'm pretty comfortable putting him in there right now in a short-term basis. And to me, when I look at Mike and I look at Dylan, I think you can cobble together some semblance of Ashton based on what both of those guys bring to the table. That's the beauty of Ashton Jeanty, is that he could do everything. He could do it all in whatever situation you're talking about, throwing it to him, screening it to him, handing it off to him, running wide, all of those things, close to the goal line, you could pound it with him. All of those things, Ashton Jeanty is that guy in one player. We don't know, in terms of Mike, hey, can he be an asset in the passing game? Don't really know that yet. Not a whole lot of footage of that in college. What I do know is based on when you hand him the ball, good things can happen. So feel really good about that. And when you add in now Dylan Laube and the ability to be kind of a change of pace guy or a guy that you could throw it to, screen it to, all those types of things. Now I think you're building an Ashton Jeanty light, let's just say that, with those two players. And that's why I think Dylan now becomes really important, because I felt like there was a role for him to begin with. When you're in third down, and I could see it in practice, and I saw it in Houston, Dylan Laube on third downs a lot of times is out there. So that told me that, okay, they're carving out a role for him in certain situations. Now it's probably going to have to be more pronounced, because if this is an extended type of a thing. But I do think you can cobble together some semblance of Ashton Jeanty in both of those running backs.
702-365-9200 is the number. Alexa Belcastro, who was at practice and saw it as well, she'll be joining us in hour number 2 to talk about the Jeanty effect, where the Raiders go from here, what should go on from here in terms of that running back depth. She'll join us in the hour number 2, 8 o'clock hour. Mark McMillian, our Mighty Mouse, our guy, he's been in a few locker rooms. He's seen a few guys go down and the way locker rooms respond. Really interested to hear from Mark and get his perspective on the Jeanty situation, how the Raiders respond, because now this is a couple seasons where we've seen a premier player, a player that the Raiders were going to rely on heavily go down. We saw Brock Bowers early in the season a couple of years ago. Malcolm Kuntz coming off of what was an incredible back half of the season. We've seen some of these happen right before or near the early part of the regular season. The Raiders are not are not Teflon, right? Everybody goes through injuries, but this one was definitely a gut punch, at least for the start. The belief is that they dodged a bullet, not as severe as might have been feared in the initial aftermath of it, but a tough blow nonetheless. 702-365-9200. We want to hear from you, Nation. Sunday was quite a roller coaster of emotion in terms of, thinking, uh-oh, what now? We want to hear from you. What now? What are your thoughts on what we believe to be not as severe an injury, but where the Raiders go from here in terms of that running back room? How big of a step back do you believe the team will have, regardless of who takes the reins of that quote-unquote bigger workload? We want to hear from you, 702-365-9200, but first.
Hey guys, are you craving real Mexican food that's been doing it right for generations? Well, then it's time for Sal's Mexican Restaurant, a Central Valley tradition since 1942. We are talking about the kind of food that keeps people coming back for more. Stacked burritos, sizzling fajitas, legendary enchiladas, and those award-winning tamales that everybody's talking about. And here's the best part. Whether you're in Selma, Madera, or Fresno, Sal's has a location for you. Plus, Raider Nation, listen up. Whether it's game night, and they're coming, or fight night, UFC, boxing, whatever the case might be, a great college football game, this is your spot. Can't make it in? No problem. You can get Sal's delivered straight to your door wherever you are. Just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com. That's salsmexicanrestaurant.com. And place your order right now. They'll deliver it to you wherever you are. Don't wait, don't settle. Sal's Mexican Restaurant, tradition, flavor, and Raider pride served up fresh every single day.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the morning tailgate.
Takes the drop, hands it off to Washington, trying to follow the blockers, bounces off to the midfield, and he's into the secondary. Washington to the 30 and just tripped up at the Texans 25. Jalen Smith tracked him down to save a touchdown, but he bounced off for 32 yards.
Jason Horowitz on the call. Raider Nation Radio 920. Mike Washington Jr. with the second big run of his preseason campaign. Welcome back in, everybody, to the morning tailgate. It is Raider Nation Radio 920, and we're talking Ashton Jeanty. We're having the conversation on the Holding of the breaths that eventually turned into a bit of a sigh of relief on Sunday as he leaves practice early. Not as severe as originally thought, an ankle injury. The exact severity and exact length of time he'll be out is still undetermined. Nothing official from the team. When it does become official, obviously, we will bring it to you. But we are trying to move the conversation forward now. We all understand, right? Like the impact Ashton Jeanty had on the team last year. That was a below average offense. He was as we said many times, the shining light of a tough, cloudy offense a year ago. And the expectations for him in year two, the jump, were massive. Still are massive, by the way. Still are massive when he gets back out onto the field. But the question, and for me, you have to operate as if you might not have 100% Ashton Jeanty for week one. And I'm talking about today. I'm talking you need to operate today like you might not have him because you got to get those guys online quick, fast, in a hurry, especially for an offense that is predicated, dictated, and based solely off your ability to run the ball. So as much as we talk about the offensive line, and rightfully so, we still need to have conversations about the offensive line. The guy toting the rock is a big part of that now, because before, Vinny, he was Ashton Jeanty is in the Brock Bowers, Max Crosby set it and forget it type of category. That's why we set him to the side. It wasn't disrespect. If anything, it was the utmost respect. He's a set it, forget it type of guy. You know what you're going to get, right? Like the floor for him is superstar level. The ceiling is who knows what. That's now not in the fold. And it's not that I'm concerned, because I'm not going to be concerned about anything until we get to game week and we figure out who's going to be part of the process. But right now, there is a level of concern because of the drop-off that you are having in the running back room. Like, I've seen Mike Washington every single day. I like what I see. Don't get me wrong. Love what I see. But the discrepancy between him and Ashton Jeanty is still fairly large. Again, over 300 touches his rookie season a year ago. The expectation was for that to only increase, right? So when we talk about, what's in the backfield, you have a rookie runner that's never taken a snap in a National Football League game. You have Dylan Lobby, who has 8 carries to his name in his first 2 seasons. Dario Gumawale had 11 carries for the Houston Texans, primarily a special teamer last year, and the only other runner on the roster is Roman Hemby, another rookie. So is there concern? A little bit. But at the same time, I'm not gonna freak out about anything yet until we get to actual game week, and we're looking at who's a feasible, reasonable option. But it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch to see how quickly Kubiak and company can get those guys online, because it's not going to be just one. I mean, it would be great if Mike Washington just took over seamlessly and carried the rock until Ashton got back. That's probably not likely. So how quickly can those guys get online?
Yeah, and we can be talking about freaking out and DEFCONs this and DEFCONs that inside the building and inside that coaching room. All right, Ashton Jeanty off to the side. We can't even think about you necessarily right now until the doctors tell us. And the medical staff, and even when you do get back, we got to worry about, or we have to be aware of the fact, let's put it that way, that this is a ankle sprain, and those don't just go away, and sometimes those can affect, for an extended period of time. So they can't even think about Ashton Jeanty right now, as unfortunate and as cold-hearted as that might sound, until he's back, until he's cleared, until they can see with their own eyeballs that he's back to being Ashton Jeanty. they cannot count on Ashton Jeanty for the time being. So, boom, Ashton, we love you. You're off to the side. Mike Washington, Dylan Laube, and everyone else in that room, time to step up. Also looking around the league right now, I'll say this, the San Francisco 49ers and a guy by the name of Sincere McCormick's been playing pretty well in a crowded running back room. I don't know that he makes that team, so that's a name to keep an eye on. He's been around here before and has been playing really well. So you have to start thinking about those things. I know the pro personnel department is already looking at that. Right. Trust me, they are trying to figure out, all right, in a worst case scenario or whatever it is, it's a 2-week scenario, it's a 5-week scenario, whatever the case might be, we got to find somebody that's going to be able to come in here and help if it comes to that. So they got to do their job. Everybody's got to do their job. But the one thing that I would say that right now is for the health of your sanity and just to keep the train rolling, you got to move Ashton over to the side and you got to keep that train going. And just when he comes back, he comes back. But for right now, can't even think about him. Got to figure out a different way to go about it than what we had anticipated going into the season.
Now, again, we did not, based on the way the schedule was on Sunday, we met with players and coaches prior to practice. But here's Andrew Janocko, the Raiders offensive coordinator, being asked prior to practice on what he's seen out of Mike Washington Jr. and the impact he's had so far this training camp and preseason.
I think Mike comes to work. He works very hard every day. Mike comes and he studies very hard. He asks great questions. He's on his craft all the time, and it's something that you see translate into the practice field. It's something that we keep pushing him every single day. It's something that's always going to be a point of emphasis for him, that he comes out every single day. He's prepared to the best of his ability, and then you see it translate onto the grass. So that's something that we are always going to constantly be on him.
So that is Andrew Janocko on Mike Washington Jr. and Clay. When you sit there and you realize, and again, he's not new to football, so that's not what I'm saying. But when he sits there, we're less than 2 weeks removed from his first NFL experience ever being inside a stadium. That's what he told me when he was at Allegiant Stadium. This was my first NFL experience ever, and it was his preseason debut. Played very well in that game. It continued in the joint practice in Houston, and again, he looked very good against the Texans on Thursday. But now that jump from your first NFL experience a couple weeks ago feels like that's going to go up a few notches here in the next few days.
Yeah, he doesn't have time to think too much about this. And it's funny when you hear how one coach will say, the head coach will say, well, he's got a long way to go. And then Janocko's like, well, we're throwing a lot at him.
Yeah.
We're making sure that he gets a full breadth of what is expected to do. And there's a certain expectation of, all right, there's a caliber of running back that we need to make sure that, are you reliable for 20-plus touches a game, or are you able to get out in the backfield and catch passes? So far, Mike Washington has shown the ability to do that and to get upfield. So what's it going to be like, and how much have they planned for a plan B in this offense, just in case this Jeanty situation were to occur? And it seems as though that maybe they do have a plan, because there's still a fullback there in Connor Hayward that can also kind of help stem the tide on pass blocking and a lot of other things that can help a running game go, especially when you put a lot of responsibility on a first-year player.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Mike Washington, never had more than 167 carries in his college career. Let me try to do that math. 167 carries in 12 games last year. Let's see what that averages out to, because this is not something that he's never really been asked to do, carry the ball. 167 divided by 12, and that was his career high. That's 14 carries per game in college. That was his high water mark, you guys. So, and, he's had an issue sometimes holding on to the ball. So there's that to consider. So he's never been a guy that you just hand the ball off to 20, 22 times a game. He just hasn't been that guy. And so you have to take that into account, because the last thing that you want to do is start asking guys to do things that they're not necessarily ready for or have done, or is completely different to what they are used to and how they've been used throughout their career. So you always have to be kind of aware of that, which is why I think this is going to be more of a duo type of a thing with he and Dylan Laube for the time being until Ashton comes back. So that's just kind of the long and short of it when you think about it. I wouldn't even be thinking about 20 carries per game for Mike Washington off the bat, because he's just never done that before.
Yeah, 13 fumbles in his college football career. That was the biggest knock on him. right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was the biggest,
Pretty serious.
the biggest knock on him. And I'm not downplaying it whatsoever. But that was for a guy 6'2", 225, runs 4.3. You're like, what's the problem with this guy? Well, what do you mean? What's the issue? Well, that was the issue. That has not shown itself. At least from my eyeballs and my viewings in practice and training camp so far, which is good news for Mike Washington, right? But again, Vinny, it's one thing to throw a lot at these rookies, and then it's another thing to have to catapult them into a position they're not ready for. And I don't want to make the apples to apples comparison, okay? But it's not too dissimilar to what we saw last year with Dante Thornton Jr. Like he was thrown into it, and yes, he was making plays here and there during training camp, but he was thrown into a role last year, at least at the start, that he was not ready for, and he seemed to regress as the season went on, and so that's what you don't want as well.
One thing I would say, you're right, because that definitely is not an apples to apples. Because if you go back and look, even at Dante's college career, he didn't really do anything. To be honest with you, right. That's
why it's not.
Mike's coming off 1,000 yards, averaging over 6 yards per carry last year at Arkansas, and he had productive years elsewhere besides that. So, I mean, I get what you're saying in the point of you can't ask him to do,
You can't ask him to do what he hasn't done, is basically what I'm saying. And really Mike's at a different level than what Dante was last year. But again, for what the Raiders offense is wanting to do, basing basically their entire team off of, it's a massive, maybe the most important focal point, because it bleeds into everything. The offensive line, the quarterback, even though for all intents and purposes it's likely going to be Kirk, right? Like for everything, this is the Raiders. It was Ashton Jeanty. Not having him possibly is a real problem if that is indeed the case moving forward in the season.
Right. It's a problem, but it's not an unsolvable problem. So you're just going to, again, have to figure out how to disperse that with a running back that's not used to carrying high volume amounts of times. He was like one of those home run hitters last year, at Arkansas. So you just have to take that into account. You have Dylan Laube, who hopefully he's past his, everyone talks about fumbling problems. It was 2 fumbles. It wasn't like, every time he handed the ball, he never got handed the ball, because he fumbled it early on.
It was his first carry. It was his first NFL carry fumble, and the second one was a kickoff return.
And
first carry against T.J. Watt.
Right. Who poked it away. Yeah, and so to sit here and say that's a problem, that to me is overstating it a little bit. But anyway, he's somebody that in training camp we've seen this, and in games, and I saw this in Houston. He was lining up with the first team in certain situations. That now may be a little bit more elevated because you're not going to have Ashton Jeanty, at least for right now. I mean, we got to go with what we have right now. And Ashton Jeanty, I would be shocked if he was out of practice tomorrow. Going on that, you're just going to have to. The problem is obvious. The problem is clear, but it's not an unsolvable problem, and it might not. Even with those two, you're probably not going to equal Ashton Jeanty, but you have to get as close to a facsimile to what you were expecting from Ashton Jeanty, one way or another, whether it's through those 2 running backs or adding another running back and trioing it, whatever you have to do to keep that running game and really the passing game to the running backs, moving down the line, because you have to figure out how to make up that expected production that Ashton was going to give you.
Practice is set for about noon today, which I would, if I were betting man, would lend itself to another indoor session over there at Raiders HQ. So we'll see what today looks like. Bit of a double duty. There's an event at Allegiant Stadium this morning that I'm going to have to jet off to before heading off to practice. So a lot going on with the silver and black. But hey, this is what we love. Don't love injuries. That's not what we like to talk about. Unfortunately, that is the That is the situation at hand, and it is a big one, at least at the present moment. Ashton Jeanty, his status up in the air, at least for the immediate future. What does it mean for the Raiders? How do the Raiders change? We'll tell you. We'll dive into those answers coming up next. 702-365-9200. Nation, we want to hear from you here on The Tailgate. Welcome back inside the morning tailgate. 702-365-9200. Ashton Jeanty down but not out, seemingly. Raider Nation, how are we feeling here on a Monday? Not the way you wanted to start the week, without question, but is it a sigh of relief right now? Is it still optimism knowing, hey, you got a rookie runner that's looking pretty good, that can help fill the void up until if and when Jeanty needs to return? 702-365-9200. Let's jump out to the phones. Raider T in Walnut Creek. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, I think I might have a little bit different perspective on this. Like, I love Ashton Jeanty. I think this guy's super talented. I think he's going to be like on par with Brock Bowers in terms of the next generations of leaders of this team. I think the guy's got superstar written all over him. But I have to say, like, I'm not that concerned about it, honestly, because I've been a Raider fan for a long time, and I've been waiting for them to be a good team for a long time and a good organization for a long time. And, you know, I think one of the things I saw last year was you have a guy like Brock Bowers, and he goes down and it derails your season for, you know, a big part of your season, right? And I'm looking forward to our organization becoming a team where we've had years of good drafts and years of good free agency decisions, where one guy going down doesn't break your season, where, yeah, you have a drop-off, but we get to the point where we're such a solid organization with good depth that we have another guy that comes in and he fills the void. He might not, you know, be on the same par as a superstar that goes down, but we have somebody that goes in and the train keeps rolling. So that's kind of like where I am on this Ashton Jeanty thing. I'm not all that upset about it. I think there's guys that can go in and fill the role. I don't think that the rookie should be the guy to handle it because, you know, obviously there's a learning curve. Now, whether they have somebody like McCormick who's been with the organization that gets cut and we bring him in, you know, we've had that situation in the past where we've had veterans come in and do a pretty good job keeping the train rolling. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm waiting for us to get to that point. That's what I'm looking forward to, not one individual guy. Because you don't win in this league. There's too many injuries. It's too violent of a game. Guys go down all the time, right? So that's my thoughts.
Raider T, thanks so much for the call, and you're not wrong.
The word he's looking for is cope.
Yeah,
by the way.
And
I say that with all due respect.
But Raider T, you're not wrong, and again, with all due respect, the Raiders are not at that point where we're talking about wins. I think we're talking about the fragility of the franchise. We're still in those early infant parts of what he's talking about of stacking drafts, right? And while that's the right and for me, this is me talking, I think that's the right mindset to have in terms of, all right, you take the positive approach, but to me there's also still an equal part on the other side is that you have to start lifting the team forward. You have to start moving them forward. Doesn't mean necessarily wins, but it has to start looking better. And the fact that Ashton Jeanty is the centerpiece to that, right? Like Brock Bowers is also part of that conversation, but whether he's healthy or not, if you don't have the quarterback, you can't really see that. Regardless of who the quarterback is, you can see Ashton Jeanty. You saw with the worst offensive line in the National Football League, he still nearly rushed for 1,000 yards. So you can still move things forward with an Ashton Jeanty. That's why for me, this is a real stumbling block today. Now, how quickly can you get a Mike Washington Jr. up and running? Because as much as I love Dylan Lobby, Mike Washington Jr. is the prototypical guy who's there to fill in. Can't do it all. Can't ask him to do it all in his rookie year unless he dazzles everybody.
kind of said this a couple of weeks ago. It's if Ashton were to go down, Mike Washington's the next man up. Dylan Lowby, I never saw him as that guy. It's Mike Washington.
Yeah.
And now you're going to probably have a little bit, even more of Dylan Lowby to help make up some of the difference of some of the other skills that Ashton Jeanty brought to the table. So I don't expect them to bring somebody in that's going to be the guy now. I think that's going to be Mike Washington. And quite honestly, up till now, he's done nothing but earned that. There's no need right now, based on what we've seen, to go outside the building to get somebody to replace Ashton Jeanty.
Alexa Belcastro joins us next here. Hour number 2 on the way in the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
There have been plenty of other coaches, but why not us? Why not this staff? Why not this group of players? I look at it as what a great challenge. We're going to be about the work.
He is back, baby! And the Raiders regain the lead!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Flying through into hour number 2 here on the Morning Tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Monday, August 24th, 2026. All at the same time, Raider Nation. We breathe in. We breathe out. Ashton Jeanty seemingly dodges a bullet. An ankle injury that is not deemed long-term. That is the good news. Also good news, not a knee injury. We're using the power of positivity this week and this weekend. We're staying on the up. But we also have to understand what could be. What does it mean in the now, in the present, in the not-too-distant future for this team, for the Raiders? 702-365-9200 is the number. We'll continue to get your calls, get your thoughts up on the text line on Ashton Jeanty, the roller coaster of emotion from Sunday. What you think needs to happen next for the Raiders to not miss a beat, as it were, as we march toward the regular season less than 3 weeks away. But joining us now, a storyteller extraordinaire. She laid witness as well inside Raiders HQ from News 3 LV, Alexa Belcastro. Alexa, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. I joined that exhale with you.
Good.
Nice.
Isn't that nice to start on a Monday? No matter the circumstance. Now, I have to share a quick story, okay? Before we get into the business at hand, Vinny and Clay, okay?
All right, let's hear it.
So Jeanty goes down. There's just all kinds of commotion within the media contingent, as you can imagine. There's commotion going on as the Raiders finish up practice. We get escorted out, and there's a lot of hubbub.
Hurly-burly.
Yeah, a lot of it in the media room, right? When do we get the information out? Do we need to wait for the Raiders? Are they sending out state? All this stuff, right? There's tensions are high. Mm-hmm. This is the story. This is the story in the National Football League.
I'm feeling it.
And in the midst of all of this, I look over, and Alexa's like laughing. and Vinny, I go, in my head, I'm like, this is probably not the funniest moments of the season. Alexa had left her camera in all the hubbub inside the practice facility. Inside the indoor.
Oh, yes.
And so now she had the awkward moment of like, boy, the Raiders don't really want to talk to anybody right now, but I'm going to have to go back. I need my, I got to.
Oh, yes.
And it was quite the scene.
It was a tough scene. I walked into Raiders PR in the room, and I was like, hey, so I know it's not the time, but can I go get my camera?
Yeah.
And the looks I got, and I finally see Will, the head of PR, and he just laughs at me. He's like, this would be you.
Yeah. Right, Alexa's shoulders were slumped, head down, not making eye contact, but got the camera. Everything was on the up and up.
I got it.
Sorry, I couldn't help. That was a great story.
I got my job yesterday.
Yeah, everybody's good.
The camera.
Alexa,
vigilance.
Talk to us about the emotional roller coaster and your take, your perspective on what you saw at practice and the immediate aftermath of what this means for the Raiders moving forward.
To be honest, I didn't see the play happen. I saw just Ashton on the ground. And then the scariest part of it to me was the team's reaction, because I didn't think from watching like what everyone saw, no one was like, oh my gosh, like Ashton's down right now, until the team like all got on a knee, and then it was like kind of all caught our attention. So that's what was the biggest surprise to me. Once the team started praying is what it looks like, I was like, oh wow, this could be serious. And then obviously him not being able to put weight on his foot when he was getting off the field with the trainer, that was also alarming. So, yeah, I think all of our heads probably went to the worst in that situation. So getting that news that it sounds like it's an ankle sprain was, like you said, a huge exhale.
Yeah, and Alexa, you know as well as anybody that the train does not stop running down the tracks. And, that's the cold-hearted nature of this business. Ashton is off to the side for the moment. We'll see how long that moment lasts. But for some period of time, let's just put it that way, the Raiders are going to have to make do and figure out a different way without Ashton. And obviously we go to Mike Washington. You've seen Mike throughout training camp and throughout the preseason. Your level of confidence, based on what you've seen, that hopefully for a short period of time, Mike Washington can keep this thing afloat.
Yeah, I think the reassuring thing is that we've seen a lot of good things from Mike Washington. I think he's one of the strongest rookies on the roster right now, and he's a guy I'm really excited to keep watching. He's been a standout in the preseason. I think it was like he was averaging 8 yards to carry through 2 games, something close to that. Don't take my word, but it was
7.9. 7.9. You're right on it.
All right.
Let's go. But yeah, I think, the light in this is you have a really good rookie running back, and obviously in Clint Kubiak's system, you want 2 solid running backs, but Mike Washington has been really promising in these 2 preseason games. We've seen a lot of explosive runs, and I'm excited to watch him expand his workload a little bit as well.
Alexa, can you describe what it was like, though, when you saw how dramatic the effect it was on the rest of the Raiders team as everyone went to a knee and watching Jeanty come off the field?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Coach Kubiak, like, he is, a believer. So them starting to pray, I was like, okay, maybe my mind just went to the worst, honestly. Like, his season was over, the way that they handled the situation. But it was definitely scary. Nothing that I've witnessed in a practice before. The way it was handled, the way his injury was handled, it just seemed like it was a very impactful moment for the team, to say the least.
Yeah, Alexa Belcastro, News 3 LV, and I will co-sign on that. I've never seen something like that before. Again, I think everybody, thought the worst, because you don't know if it's a knee, you don't know if it's a leg, you don't know what exactly it was. He put no weight on that right leg. Turns out it looks like it is an ankle injury. Again, that is the sigh of relief. Still not an injury you want for a running back, but better than some of the alternatives. Alexa, from bad to worse, not only do the Raiders seemingly, at least for the moment, have a issue at running back, looks like they got issues at wide receiver as well. That is, if you listen to one Clint Kubiak, did not mince words Friday on the Zoom via after the Houston Texans game, saying that position group took a step back. Not to say they can't take a step forward, but they're looking for somebody that's accountable and somebody that's going to help them on Sundays. Pause. Still looking. I mean, as direct and shining a light on a position group as I've ever heard. Your thoughts on him calling out the wide receivers, and what do you think it means just in general for the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as everyone was looking at Fernando Mendoza's interception, I think it's clear there was some route running miscommunications there. Aside from, that being a progression issue and him maybe making the wrong call in that moment. But I think that was one thing. That wasn't just on Fernando in that moment. And then you have Malik Benson making a few costly drops, which he was someone that everyone was really excited about. And, it's just one game, but it was not the best game for the wide receivers as a whole. And right now, even Jalen Naylor, he's a guy that they kind of wanted as their wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Not the best game from him. So I think beyond Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, Jack Besh, Benson was in that mix. And then that game 2, you just kind of have a lot of question marks. And I think the fact that Coach Kubiak said that pretty bluntly, he's not really one to do that often. So that's clearly a glaring issue for him. Normally he keeps those conversations in the building, but for him to just say it how it is like that, you could see he saw a lot of concerns on the field with that group.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is he put the wide receivers on blast. There's no other way to really, sugarcoat that whatsoever, and I'm not. And I haven't seen enough from the wide receivers. And I've seen them in practice. I've seen them in games. Saw them in Houston. They were pretty much non-existent. So, to me, it's a concern. I don't know what you can do to fix it right now or to add anybody right now. But if you are talking about levels of a concern, how concerned are you that we just haven't seen these wide receivers wow us the way you need to see NFL wide receivers wow you during training camp?
I'm pretty concerned, but I'm not on the coaching staff, so hopefully they have a bigger plan to this. But from the outside looking in, it's very concerning because I think from the beginning of camp, there is not one day, at least that I've been at camp, and I thought, wow, the wide receivers just amazed me today. I really can't think of one day. So aside from Malik Benson and the Fernando Mendoza connection, and I think that's concerning when you can't think of one play in your head, oh, wow, that receiver really made a good play there. So, yeah, I think that's very concerning. Luckily, Kubiak likes to run tight end sets. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do once the regular season starts, and if they're going to need a look to add to that position. Is Bowers and Mayer going to be enough weapons for them to on this offense?
Alexa, when you also think about kind of like how that game went for Fernando on Thursday night, you saw how the national narrative kept leading off with the pick six, but that game showed a different kind of story for Fernando, especially the part of his ability to be resilient and to pop back and eventually lead a scoring drive, and showing you that there's plenty on the table for him, not only to improve, but already to kind of take a look at it and say, what, he's growing each and every time we see him.
He handled a major NFL mistake exactly how you would want him to handle one, and exactly when you would want to see one from a rookie. Because like he said many times, like this coaching staff has said many times, you can make a mistake, but don't make the same mistake twice. So is he going to throw over the middle and behind again? I don't think so. It's NFL maybe,
sure,
but
yeah.
I think he's really going to take that as a learning moment. I would take that as a good thing. People, are on him after that game saying, oh my gosh, Fernando threw an interception. But then look at his 6 completions he had after that. And that's, to me, more telling than anything. I would hope to see a rookie go through some adversity in the preseason and see how they respond. And I think the way he responded is exactly why he was the number 1 overall pick.
It's Alexa Belcastro joining us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. All right, given the need for more from the wide receivers, given the injury to Ashton Jeanty, how are you approaching preseason game number 3 against the San Francisco 49ers? We're less than 3 weeks away from kickoff for the Raiders. How are you approaching starters, who's playing, who's not, Thursday at Allegiant?
Well, there's a lot of guys on the bubble. So you're going from 90 to 53 on Sunday. So a lot of players, this is their last live audition. So I definitely don't think, we're going to see a lot of starters in the game. It's going to be a lot of wide receivers, corner guys who are really on the bubble. And obviously the Ashton Jeanty is a huge thing to monitor as well. But I think it's just going to be a lot of guys we haven't seen yet and who's on the bubble of this roster. And in the penalties. The penalties hopefully improve as well.
Yeah, I agree. We've got one more week of this quote-unquote quarterback battle. Clint Kubiak's not naming a quarterback yet, but what do you want to see, what can we see from Fernando Mendoza if there is theoretically a quarterback battle and that job is still open? Some of it, part of me says it's just coach speak, but if it isn't, and there is room for Fernando to make up ground and maybe even win that job, what do you think we need to see from him this weekend on Thursday?
I think exactly what he's been doing. I mean, to me, the second preseason game was just as impressive as the first for me because mentally to bounce back from that interception. And then also you saw his personality, like being a team guy. And, he gets some slack sometimes, maybe being, like his brother said, the nerdy guy. But you saw him hyping up the team. You saw him on the sideline, like still making sure Kirk has a good game, making sure Aiden has a good game, helping him out. So I think just being who he is, like he's authentically, honestly so talented. I think he has what it takes. So I want to keep seeing what I'm seeing. I was really impressed with the 6 straight completions after that. I think he's right where he's supposed to be.
Were you a little surprised that not a majority of starters played in that game against Houston? And in fact, now, as you said, maybe the week 3 is really just audition time for guys who are finding spots on the last marks of the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see even less of like Stukes not being out there because that's, to me, he's like already proven himself, like a lot of the rookies. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a full-on audition. And I'm honestly looking at practice right now, aside from the right guard battle, it's hard for me to tell who is on the bubble, especially when we talk about wide receivers. Like, I'm not sure what that position group is going to do. I actually want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, it's interesting because you want to know like who is on the bubble, and like because you've seen such a reliance on some second teamers already. Do you find like this is still kind of like a group that they feel very confident in, or do you feel like it's still up for grabs? In
the wide receiver position?
Yeah, or even for who's going to like take over, because we saw how this went out last year when they were looking for Amari Cooper at the very end, and that didn't work out at all by the time the season started.
I think the problem is the question is who is going to step in. Like, there's no one in the group right now when you're watching. Like, Malik Benson was the only guy who was kind of pushing on those starters that you were like, all right, maybe he can push someone out for a spot. And now it's just kind of, so I think Malik Benson and Jack Besh, they're important names to watch. But the real question is how many receivers do they keep? Who fills out the back end of that room? Benson's currently behind Besh on the unofficial depth chart, so his response after Houston, I'll be curious about. I guess the other position battle would be corner, and Hezekiah Mathis. He was someone who really impressed me at the beginning of camp. Kind of fell off in game 2. Jermon McCoy. Those are two names I would look at there as well.
Man, there's no shortage of names to watch in preseason game number 3, but the name to watch is Alexa Belcastro. 2 on the X. Alexa, News 3LV, appreciate you as always. I'm so glad you got your camera.
Oh, me too.
I was worried.
Thank you for the moral support on that one as well.
Could you imagine after going in your station? So I lost my camera.
You couldn't have helped out a little bit? Come on, Vince.
Yeah, come on, Vince.
Yeah.
You're right. This isn't my problem. This is my fault.
This is you.
No, I was like Mr. Burns in the corner going, yes, yes.
You know
Alexa,
what? I think I lightened the mood in the building.
You did. You were the spark. Alexa, we appreciate you. We'll do it again next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank
Alexa
you.
Belcastro. It's an interesting what a week for the Raiders, because she asked the question and we asked the question, that wide receiver room, Vinny, and again, the story today is Ashton Jeanty, but you can't help but you look at what's missing with Ashton Jeanty and can't help but remember what Clint Kubiak had to say about the wide receiver room, putting them on blast on Friday, and there isn't anybody in that room, right? Like, if they haven't stepped up by now, if there isn't that one guy, then now it becomes right, wrong, or indifferent on Kubiak. How are you going to scheme this up? How are you going to make this look to put them in the best possible position? It's going to be fascinating to see who can emerge as the scheme kind of reveals itself throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. And as Alexa said, this is going to be a heavily dominated tight end thrown to group. And you just got to hope that, Malik Benson steps up, Trey Tucker steps up. It was very conspicuous that Jalen Naylor played in that game on Thursday. I'll leave it at that. But obviously a message was being sent that need you to step up. And because usually, no other starter played, and he is, quote unquote, a starter. So that tells you exactly tells us all we really need to know about where that wide receiver room is. And why I kept saying throughout, just because Clint Kubiak is here doesn't mean Trey Tucker or Jalen Naylor is automatically going to turn into JSN. JSN is a one of one, and you just don't have that on the roster, and that's okay. It's a box that needs to get checked off, and it has to get checked off at some point. You need somebody that's going to be able to offset Brock Bowers and put maximum amount of pressure on a defense. That player does not exist right now for the Raiders. That's just the long and short of it and the honest of it. As you said, now it's on Clint Kubiak to kind of scheme it up and to figure out, all right, how can we still be productive, without that kind of an element on this team? And so we'll see how he does that. We'll see if they go outside the building. There just is, it's very slim pickings outside the building. I know I've gotten this on social media. They should have gotten in the draft. You got to go out there, and why didn't you get somebody in the draft? Okay, so you want to not draft Traden Stukes? You want to not draft Keith Crawford? Those are players too. When you have as many needs as the Raiders have had over the last couple of years, including this year going into this draft, and there were needs all over the roster, there's still needs all over the roster. Why? Because there's so many needs. There were so many needs that you can't get to every single position. What do you want to do? Draft Carnell Lake rather than Fernando Mendoza in the first round? Is that what you're saying? No, of course you're going to take the quarterback. And you had a chance to really address your safety position, because if anyone had any eyes and watched the football team last year, the secondary was a huge issue. So they doubled and tripled down on cornerbacks. And did it come at the expense of a wide receiver here and there? Yes. But those are hard decisions that you have to make in the drafts. They liked Stribling, the Ole Miss wide receiver. He went to the San Francisco 49ers, I think with the first pick of the second round, or right before the Raiders. So things also happen in drafts that may take players that you like away and off the table, and you just have to adjust. So this is a long-range process. I don't want to sit here and say it's going to take 10 years. I'm not suggesting that, but it's a multi-year process. We all know that. And wide receiver is just one of those positions that they weren't able to get to at a high level in this offseason.
702-365-9200 is the number. We want to get your thoughts up on the phones. We'll get to some of your texts, as Jeanty is the soup du jour, if you will, on a Monday. We're also talking about the wide receiver room and the comments made by Clint Kubiak. What is the fix? Who do you think is that guy, if there is in the building? And if not, where are you going to fix said issue with the Raiders? 702-365-9200. Your calls, your thoughts next, but first.
Hey guys, are you not feeling as good as you know you should be? Are you got some aches and pains? Do you look at yourself in the mirror and saying, yeah, I put on a few extra pounds. How'd that happen? And intuitively, you know, I can't keep going down this path. I got to do something about it. And you keep telling yourself, but I'm going to start tomorrow. I promise I'm going to start tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow. And guess what? You keep doing that, those tomorrows run out pretty quickly. And here's the thing. You have an opportunity today, right now, with City MD. If you're tired of feeling sluggish, frustrated with your weight, dealing with daily aches and pains, or just not feeling like yourself, it's time to take control. City MD in Las Vegas offers personalized wellness and weight management programs designed for real, lasting results, but they don't stop there. City MD also provides advanced pain therapy and primary care, giving you a complete head-to-toe approach to your health. One team, one plan built around you. More energy, less pain, better health, real confidence. And here's the thing. Appointments are filling up fast, so here's what you need to do. You need to stop waiting and stop putting it off. Give them a call at 725-255-7246. That's 725-255-7246. Ask for our good friends Andy or Claudia, and they're going to take it from there. Or you could go to citymdphp.com. That's citymdphp.com right now and schedule your consultation. City MD, stop waiting. Start feeling like yourself again today.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the morning tailgate.
Mendoza back to throw. Plenty of time. Looking left. Now fires near side. Caught Benson at the 40. Leaps into the air in front of the defender to make the grab at the 41-yard line. He beat the safety Kayvon Merriweather for 18 yards. The rookie out of Oregon moves the chains.
Jason Horowitz, Raider Nation Radio 920. Little Malik Benson. Clint Kubiak calling out the wide receiver room. Took a step back. Doesn't mean they can't take a step forward, Clay. But they took a step back last week. And in a position group where we've already spotlighted about need more from that group. The fact that your head coach, who's been very direct in terms of things he doesn't like, right? When he was talking about the penalties, when he was talking about different things that he didn't like, very direct with that position group. What is the fix? Is there a fix? Is the onus now on him, Janoko, scheming up what they do have? Because while rosters aren't necessarily you have what you have, right? Roster cutdown day is less than a week away. I don't know how many fixes are going to be just left on the market to the Raiders' own devices.
Yeah, there's not going to be a wide receiver one. I'll go out on a limb. But Vinny, sorry, real quick, sorry. No, I know.
I know we're having the wide receiver one conversation, and I understand that. But I'm talking about like fixes for right now. Like, is there what could be out on the market that would at least fix it, or is the only fix to this wide receiver group a true, unrivaled number one type receiver?
No, that's not the only fix. They do need that, though. So let's park that to the side. What they need from this group is just better.
Yeah.
I didn't see him in Houston. Like, I was the one who asked the question, hey, why didn't Jack Besh play? And Clinton has had to correct me, and he's like, no, he did play. The ball just didn't find him. He was out there, though, and he was out there. I think I want to say for, close to 20 snaps. That was my bad. But the bottom line is I just never even Q and I were talking about it. Yeah. Like, what's going on? Because by that time, they had taken the starters out, I believe, the quote-unquote starters out. So the moment passed without me even realizing that Jack Best was actually on the field. But the bigger point, and that's on me, I own it, but the bigger point was he didn't do anything while he was out there. He didn't do enough for any of us to even realize that he was actually out there. And hey, that's an issue. And Jalen Naylor playing in that game, starting in that game, is kind of an issue. There was obviously a message being sent. Trey Tucker, and we all love Trey Tucker. He's one of the classiest dudes on that team. When I've watched the Raiders, whether it's in the preseason or when I've been out at practice, just haven't really felt his presence out there. And that goes across the board with the wide receivers. Yes, Malik Benson has flashed, but as I wrote in a story that's going to be posted here pretty soon, to me, what he's flashed at thus far, and I hate putting ceilings on guys, but he's flashed as a guy that projects as a future dependable role player type wide receiver. I'm not sitting here and saying, that he's the next Randy Moss or anything close to that. He's somebody that my comparison has been Nelson Aguilar, which is a good player, but Nelson Aguilar wasn't a major star or anything like that. He was a cog on some good football teams. I do believe that Malik Benson can be that kind of a guy, but that's what you need. You need guys that can show that they can at least do that right now. Nobody's asking anybody to be Justin Jefferson on this football team. That guy doesn't exist on this football team, or a JSN. That guy's not on this football team. But you have to be able to get open. You have to, be available. You have to make your presence felt. And I just haven't felt that presence of the wide receivers outside of Malik Benson, flashing from time to time.
And at this point now, you're looking at guys who may have some familiarity and have worked in West Coast offenses before. Something similar to what Kubiak and Janoko may have seen and have highlighted that these guys can do something that isn't on the roster already. Yeah. So you got to find at least some sort of familiarity in scheme.
And talk about, sending messages, right? I think it remains to be seen what Clint Kubiak's time in Vegas will be, right? But so far, I really like kind of how he's operating. I'll just say it like that. I like the way he's operating. When he was asked, why won't you name a starting quarterback? He said, I don't think it behooves anybody to let them know that they're comfortable. Nobody should be comfortable right now. And he was talking about the quarterback position, but he was also talking about everything, right? And park the quarterback conversation for a side. You go back to, Vinny, you brought up Jalen Naylor, right? One of the only quote-unquote starters on offense playing. Message sending. That's Clint Kubiak. Not only him maybe not doing all that he's asked, but Clint, at least with that one particular player, making him uncomfortable, right? Needing to get more out of him. And so that's why, you see Jalen Naylor play, the only starter basically to do so, and then you hear what he says about, I don't want anybody comfortable, and then you hear just a couple questions later or a couple answers later about him putting the wide receivers on blast. Now he's at the point where he's utilizing us, the media, to get out the message that, he's no doubt trying to get inside the building, behind closed doors. Now he's saying it out loud for us all to hear. And so what is the fix? As cut-down day rapidly approaches, is there anybody that could be out there that could help? And
I wouldn't be counting on that whatsoever. It's just. I mean,
right, but
that's somebody
where
falls into your lap.
Yeah, that's where your thought now goes. Well, if nobody here's getting the job done, well, do we all already have to look elsewhere? Yeah. We set in stone. Nothing's set in stone because again, there's going to be a lot of guys losing jobs here in a few days. But you pair that now with the Jeanty situation, and all of a sudden it feels DEFCON-ish. 702-365-9200. Go ahead, Vinny.
Yeah, well, I was going to say this, and I know that we're looking at, taking Clint at face value with I don't want anybody to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I also take that statement about the quarterback. Let's just stay with the quarterback. To me, it's a message to Fernando Mendoza and to a lesser extent Aiden O'Connell. Keep fighting, man. We're not going to sit here and say that you can't win the job right now and have that creep into your mind. Not that I think it would or they think it would. But I think this is also a message not just to Kirk or to anybody else, hey, don't get comfortable about your job, because there's guys that have jobs, and it goes without saying that they have their job. Right. So no worries about anything like that. But I think for Fernando, it's keep fighting, keep pushing this as far as you can. We are open-minded to you winning this job. How far-fetched that might be or unrealistic necessarily that might be. The point is he's telling Fernando Mendoza, you still have a chance here, so keep fighting. Keep sticking with it. Let's see where you take this, and then we'll make that decision somewhere down the line. But don't give up thinking that you're not going to be the starter. Keep fighting just like you have every day. And I'll also say this about Fernando. I don't think that Clint is even saying this if Fernando wasn't legitimately doing things that are pleasing the coaches right now. Like if he was that far off, if they were like, man, it's just not even realistic for us to even think about that, let alone say it, then they wouldn't. They'd say, hey, this is Kirk's team, and Fernando is coming. It's going to be his time eventually. Right now, this is Kirk's team. They would have already said that if Fernando wasn't showing them a certain something already. And now this is just telling him and everyone else too on the other end of it not to get comfortable. And it's also telling Fernando, keep fighting, man. You have a chance here.
No, it's a good point, and I think that's the layered messaging that I think Clint Kubiak is doing for different position groups, and that's why I really like the way he's operating right now. I like the demeanor, the abruptness, the directness, and the, as you just pointed out, the different kind of levels of meeting and some of the messaging that he's putting out there. All right, 702-365-9200. Let's get out to the phones, shall we? Dave in Denver of the Raider ilk. Raider Dave in Denver, good morning. Welcome to the tailgate. What do you got?
Hey, good morning, guys. Well, you asked a specific question about who might be out there. To me, I don't think that Calvin Ridley's going to make past cap casualty cuts with Titans. And after about the last 10 years or whatever he's got in the league, he had 3 1,000-yard seasons on teams that I don't believe were super-duper pass teams. So I think that could be one possibility. Who knows if it plays out like that. But one of the considerations moving forward is there's no doubt that Lavi and Washington are going to make this team. I don't want to see him next Thursday. If one of those two guys goes down and Jeanty can't make the opener, now what? So, just like there was 17 different receivers, some not wide receivers, obviously there were backs and everything, that did get targeted in this game, albeit a little bit because of the late run that AOC had late in the game. So got some receivers the ball, late. 16 of those had receptions out of the 17. I want to see more from those people. I think that there are obviously, just like you guys have said, areas in this roster where wide receivers, somebody's going to have to make that third, fourth, fifth, sixth, receiver on the roster. I want to see more from that. Even if AOC starts and the fourth-string quarterback runs the second half, and we just do a lot of, passing plays and punting. Whatever it is, I think the wide receiver group, you need to see more from them, and I don't think there needs to be much at all from Lobby and Washington because they're obviously making the team, and they just might be starting in week 1.
Raider Dave in Denver, thanks for the call. Interesting food for thought. We'll chew on it here in a little bit, get to more of your calls, your thoughts next here on the Morning Tailgates, Raider Nation Radio 920.
You can always catch up with the Morning Tailgate 24/7 for streaming and podcasts. Get the LV Sports Network app, free to use and download. Now, let's get back to the Morning Tailgate.
We have to get a lot better very fast. That we took a step backwards. Doesn't mean we can't go forward, but right now we are trying to find someone that is accountable and can help us on Sunday. Still looking.
Clint Kubiak, and I'll tell you what gets me on that one. It's the pause. Still looking for someone on Sunday. Still looking. Like, that's cinema right there. That is
powerful statement.
That is good delivery right there.
The thing is that if Clint was a guy that was ranting and raving all the time and, making all these statements to us and, just putting on a show up there, when he said something, if he had said something like that, being that kind of a character, players would be just rolling their eyes. That's coach talking. When it's Clint Kubiak, who is extremely measured and doesn't waste words ever on anything.
That's a good way of putting it. Says
something like that, you don't understand the meaning that it actually does have at that point, because it's not that it's out of character from him. It's just it just has much more meaning. I always tell this to people that are wanting to be, let's say, a columnist, right, or a sportscaster, Vince. If you run around holding the hammer and just taking whacks at everybody all the time, right, it loses all meaning, because people are going, oh, he does that to everybody. He wants to get everybody fired. He just drops the hammer down on everybody for whether it's warranted or not. All right, so that when it's a legitimate time to say, hey, look, Team A that you cover, Team B that you cover, might be time for the coach to it's not working. Need to move on from the coach. If you're a columnist that is measured and practical and has things in perspective and nuanced, when you do come out and say something like that, your readers, the people that rely on you or whatever or follow you, are like, wow. Okay, there's something to that, because he doesn't just randomly or recklessly, throw words out there like that. So in Clint's case, because he is so measured and matter of fact and very economical with his words, when he does say something like that, it has enormous meaning.
Yeah, there was a question a couple prior to that. He was asked something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, about Fernando Mendoza. What does he need to do? Like, what more do you want out of Fernando, kind of thing? He goes, reps.
That's it.
And then he
just needs to play.
And then there was just a pause. And again, it's a little bit more awkward because it was on Zoom, right? Which the pause feels even a little bit longer. And even he's like, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck about it.
Right.
I don't know how else. I don't know what else to say to you other than he needs reps. Like that. It's reps.
And in that case, basically what he is saying, I don't have any worries about Fernando. He just needs to get out there and continue to play. The getting better is going to happen because he's getting more reps. It's not, well, he needs to work on this, he needs to work on that, he needs to be better at this, he needs a better arm, he needs to be smarter, he needs this and that and all these things. It's not that. He has all of that. It's just he just needs to go out there in NFL real time, in practice sometimes too, in games, and get those reps. That's how he's going to get, that's how it's not that he's going to get, obviously getting better is the goal always, but it's not like he's starting from ground zero and this is what he needs to do. He just and then he needs to do this. Just, he has everything that you want in a great young quarterback. He just needs the practical experience now of being an NFL quarterback and seeing what that is, what it takes at this level, the speed of the other team, the defenses, all of that, working against that and actually experiencing, which is very encouraging if you really think about what he said.
Players always want to know, the one thing they want to know is where they stand, right? Players want to know where they stand, and they want their opportunity. And I feel like Clint Kubiak does not mince words in that. Like, it is very black and white in that respect, that he's direct. There's no games. He tells you exactly how it is, which is why every time we ask a player what Clint Kubiak is like, what it's like being coached by him, they say there's no wondering. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what he's looking for, exactly what he wants, all about ball, all that type of thing. But again, they know exactly where they stand when they stand on it. 702-365-9200. Charles in Oregon. Good morning. Welcome to the tailgate.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. So, just taking a step back, I can't help but think that I'm concerned about where like a lot of people are, where the roster is. But I'm going to practice what I preach. And I've been saying we got to be patient with the choices that Spytech has made and that kind of thing, because last year the players didn't get the opportunity to really show anything on the field. They were limited based on what Pete Carroll did. And at the same time, I can't help but think, if this coaching staff can't get, Dante Thornton and Jag Besh, and, I want to see what happens with Crawford and Zune, and it's going to take time, and you got to be patient. But at the same time, if it doesn't start showing production this year, especially with the second-year players, that's kind of concerning, in my opinion.
Who are you concerned about?
I'm happy. I think I'm not overly concerned in terms of it's still early, but Besh is a second-round pick. And
yes, but he was closer to being a third-round pick. It's important to say that they traded down a whole bunch of times. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but Ashton Jeanty is going to be a home run, right?
Sure.
Ashton Jeanty
no doubt.
It's going to be a home run. I think Caleb Rogers is showing that right. So there's been some, I think the Minnesota linebacker is going to be a good player in this league. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I'm most willing to just be patient with it, but I'm really curious to see where it goes. Seeing the response from the team, what happened with Ashton Jeanty, not only shows me what a great player he is, but more importantly, how much he's loved by the team and that he's really gone into that leadership role, which is absolutely outstanding. So I was really happy to hear that he's okay. If there's anything that's really bothering me this morning, though, it's that Daniel Carlson just signed with the Saints.
Yes. You got to be happy for Daniel. You got to be happy. Heading down to the Big Easy. Thanks for the phone call, Charles. Appreciate you. 702-365-9200. We'll get to more of your calls in hour number 3, but joining us next, it's Mighty Mouse himself, Mark McMillian, here on the Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
I'll just tell the Raider Nation that we have to earn your trust. We got to earn those seats in the stands by putting a great product on the field. Words will not do it. It's our actions.
With Vin Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
It's hour number 3 here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. The flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker coming alive from Las Vegas on a Monday, August 24th, 2026. The Raiders, the Raider Nation, for now seemingly breathing a sigh of somewhat relief as the Ashton Jeanty injury not as severe as initially thought. Not a knee, not a leg, but an ankle. We'll take the positives where we can get them. His official status, timetable still up in the air. No official word from the Raiders themselves. So we take everything with what we say with a little bit of caution, but understanding that there was an injury. There was a moment of silence and praying going on literally in the middle of practice yesterday as he's being helped off with trainers. A collision with Darian Porter at the indoor facility, and we'll see what that looks like moving forward. And again, his exact timetable lost in the practice yesterday was the return of Jackson Powers-Johnson to the field, who left a week earlier practice with his own injury, did not dress out in Houston, did not play in the preseason game, but a full participant seemingly in Sunday's practice. So good news on JPJ. And we're talking about the wide receiver room. A whole lot of conversation right now with the silver and black, and helping us to break it all down is the one known as Mighty Mac. 8-year NFL vet, JUCO Hall of Famer, reality TV star, chef extraordinaire, football, philanthropy, he does it all. Mark McMillian. Welcome once again to the Morning Tailgate. Good morning. Hope all is well, my friend. It was good to see you whenever I saw you these days run together. Hope to see more of you, but I do want to start with the Ashton Jeanty situations. You've been in many locker rooms. You've unfortunately seen many guys go down, big names, not so big names. The reaction that Jeanty garnered from nearly 90-plus men, trainers, coaches, players, all taking a knee and for 30 seconds, a moment of silence mid-practice, was something I've never personally seen. What do you make of the news of Ashton Jeanty? And take us back to maybe when you were in the locker room or practice, the feeling, the kind of gut punch it takes when, a guy goes down.
Yeah, that's a big one. We're looking forward to this young man carrying the load this year, and he's been looking really good in training camp, bigger, stronger, faster. You saw in the game the other day, he's locked in, he's taking notes. This is just another step of this young man being mature and realizing that this is a business and this isn't college anymore. And, when he goes down, man, that's the franchise. Everybody talks about Max Crosby, and rightfully so, he is the guy. But when you lose your star running back, a guy that's going to be so important in the role is coming out of the backfield, blocking, rushing, that's a big blow. And that changes your whole game plan. And now you're thinking like, okay, young guys got to step up. But, I know everybody said next man up, but it's hard to be the next man up when you're replacing one of the best running backs in the NFL. So hopefully this young man heals correctly, because those injuries can last a long time. It linger on throughout the whole season. There's nothing, ankle sprains are nothing to be taken lightly. And I remember, I think it was our first game when we were playing, and we lost Randall Cunningham in the opening game for the whole season. We're like, whoa, there goes our season. So I understand what these guys are going through in the locker room. And as far as the organization, they're probably looking at, guys getting cut to kind of bring in maybe a veteran running back to carry that load. I know Najee Harris just signed with the Giants. I know he was a name that was coming up before he even got hurt. So hopefully this young man can heal and properly heal, and they bring him along slowly and don't just rush him in there.
Mark, from the outside looking in, a locker room, everybody's equal. You're one of 53, or we are right now 1 of 90. But when you're on a team, there's kind of a hierarchy. So from a teammate's perspective, when one of the big dogs go down, does it feel a little bit different inside a locker room?
It is a big difference. I know most guys like, hey, we're part of that 53, but it's some special ones that's in front of that 53. And when you lose a guy like that, that's a big blow. Like I said, when we lost Randall, we were like, man, our whole season is gone. And we still had 15 games to go. But when you lose a catalyst and a number one like that's a big one, man. And guys in the locker room, we were talking, and on the defensive side of the ball, we're like, man, that just means we got to stop more, we got to score more on defense. It just changed our whole perspective as far as the defense.
Mark, when you also look at how the offense was predicated around the run, and we also kind of pair it with Kubiak's comments talking about the wide receiver room, saying that it felt like they took a step backwards. All right, so how much urgency now is it on that position group to maybe carry the load as they start approaching week one?
I love Kubiak when he came out and said that. A lot of coaches kind of sugarcoat it, but he was open and honest. We took a step back. And you can see it on the film, and you can see it at practice, and you see it in the games. There's nobody separating themselves and saying like, "Hey, I'm going to be this dominant receiver. I'm going to be this outlet." We all know Brock Bowers is going to get his his catches, but who's going to be the next guy? And that's a lot of pressure on that receiver room. Deebo Samuels was out there. He signed back with the 49ers. Diggs was out there. We thought that could have been a possibility, but he's over there in Washington. So there's, hopefully they might try to find somebody that's going to get released. But as of right now, I don't see a number one, and that puts a lot of pressure on Brock Bowers now, because now he's going to be continually be double teamed.
It's Mark McMillian with us here on the Morning Tailgate. Mark, obviously I know you know Jalen Naylor, and it was pretty interesting to see that he was one of the only ones really playing against Houston in that preseason contest on Thursday. I hearken back to Kubiak talking about, I don't want anybody comfortable. I don't want anybody to feel like they're comfortable, and especially the words he said about the wide receiver group in totality. It feels like there is a giant spotlight on all those guys. I'm curious what kind of response you expect and you think we'll get out of these wide receivers with cutdown day less than a week away.
Well, hopefully, I don't want to put him on blast, but I know Jalen Speedy for a long time, and I try to lead these guys that I know personally to leave them alone. But sometimes, a phone call might help. I might need to give them a phone call and say, hey, man, you got to step up. You got to do more. They paid you a lot of money to come here, and we expect a little bit more out of you. And he's not going to take it personal, and I'm sure he hears the rumors about stepping up, and you see Trey Tucker was over there spitting sunflower seeds in the cup against Houston. I'm like, these guys need to be getting reps. These guys need to be playing. Benson was the only guy out there. You drop a couple passes. He's a young guy, but he's been making a lot of plays. Thornton, I don't know where he's been. If you can't make the club in the tub, man, I don't know. Maybe he's back in Tennessee. Now guys are going back from the NFL back to college. Maybe he's going back to college or something. But it's tough in that wide receiver room. Somebody's got to step up and be that guy. And if they're not that guy, then you got to go out and find you a guy.
Mark, I felt like the secondary took a step forward. You talk about the wide receivers taking a little bit of a step back. I thought the secondary took a step forward in Houston. I really liked what I saw from Traden Stukes. It felt like he was playing with confidence and a freedom, kind of turning that corner. And Jamad McCoy as well. There were a couple of passes that he gave up, but I felt like he was right where he needed to be. It's only a matter of time to me before he and Massis are making their mark. What did you think about the secondary in week 2 of the preseason?
They're challenging a lot more. They're around the ball, and these are young guys, Vinny. You got guys coming off of injuries. Guys stepping up into roles that some of the veterans should have stepped up and made some plays. But I like what these guys are doing. I like the defensive scheme. You look in the preseason games; they're getting after these guys. They're playing press coverage. They're like you said, a couple of those passes, the young man was right there. And that's the difference between being good and being great, though, in this league. There's a lot of defensive backs that's right there in the area, but the great ones make those plays. And, the kid's been out of football for almost 2 years, so I'm not going to be too harsh on him. He's got great size, great speed, great upside. I like the way he moves around in practice. So it should be pretty interesting to see the next step these guys take this week against the 49ers, because a lot of these rookie guys will have an opportunity out here and shine and show that they deserve to be out there. And, the young safeties from Arizona, I know Chin and Palomalo our deals are up, but these young guys are out there around the ball and making plays constantly on defense and special teams.
And Mark, what do you make of the label that some DBs who might be smaller of stature, that they can't tackle, that they're not physical enough? We heard that with Hezekiah Massis. We heard that even with Greedy Vance. That was not the case where Greedy Vance becomes the leading tackler and was really trying to take people's heads off. They were reminiscent of a young DB coming out of Philly that made the All-Madden team many years ago.
Yeah, these guys are tackling a lot better. Obviously, in practice, you can't. You can't tackle in practice, which is, I think, doing these guys a disservice. And then you're going to ask these guys to go out there and tackle these running backs who are coming downhill at 215, 220. And this is your first time really bringing someone down to the ground. So it takes a couple of games. It takes a couple of dings under your belt. Like I said, you can't do tackling drills in practice, which is crazy. But these guys are, bringing guys to the ground. And as a defensive back, as a corner, no matter what size you are, you don't have to blow a guy up. You got 10 other guys that should be rallying to the ball. Just hold on and make sure those guys make the tackle. And that was our mindset back then. Me and Eric, we wasn't big-time hitters. Obviously, Eric was more physical than I was. But the guys just said, hey, man, if you just hold up for half a second, we're going to go there and clean it up. So, that seems like the deal that they're going, the route that they're going as far as the secondary. I really feel that this secondary can be really good. The defensive line seems to step up, especially in the second half, getting a lot of pressure, getting some quarterback sacks. So there is some promise with these guys, and hopefully, with this game coming up against the 49ers, they can go out, have another good performance, come out injury-free, and see where they're at.
Clay, I'm glad you brought up Massis and Greedy. Both came up with interceptions during team drills yesterday in practice. So you're starting to see these young guys get their hands on the ball. Greedy Vance actually was another pick 6. So really good day for the defense, especially the DBs on Sunday. Again, that all gets lost with the Jeanty news and things of that nature, rightfully so. That being said, Mark, looking ahead to Thursday, you just said these guys need reps.
Yeah.
What does it look like Thursday? If you get the whistle, if you got the script, who are you putting out there? Are we seeing starters on Thursday?
Well, I'm sure they're really going to be gun shy now after Jeanty went down. They're probably like, hey, we don't want to put anybody out there. Obviously, you got a couple of weeks before the Dolphins come in town, but you can't play with caution to the wind. You still got to go out there and play the game at a high level. You want to see what guys can do in different situations. This is the last opportunity for these coaches to be able to see what these guys can do. So if I'm the receiver coach, I know Kubiak. If I'm him, I'm like, man, these receivers, y'all getting out there. You guys are getting some reps, some live reps, and I don't see any reason why a guy should be like, man, I'm not playing I wanted to play in every preseason game. I think we played in all of them, and it was okay to play in all the preseason games because once that opening game hit, man, our guys were gelled in. We were locked in. We played together for like 3 or 4 preseason games. Some of these guys are spotting. They're over there with their gold chains on. They're spitting policies out their mouth. And it's like, man, don't you want to play football? You know, it's just mind-boggling to me. Some of these guys want to just sit back and chill and just be on the gravy train. So hopefully Kubiak can get these guys, especially the receiver room guys. I don't know what your opinion is, but if I'm the coach, all my receivers are playing this on Thursday, even if it's a series or two.
What do you look, Clint Kubiak has left the door open might be a small little crack for Fernando Mendoza to be the starting quarterback. He has been asked multiple times within the last few days, hey, are you ready to name a starting quarterback? No, I'm not ready to name a starting quarterback. So let's go on the premise that job is still open. What do you need to see from what closing statement do you need from Fernando Mendoza for you to legitimately consider him as a starter to see, for the season opener?
Well, first of all, they got to shore up that offensive line. Who is he going to be behind? That plays a big part in it. And are you willing to sit in your press box and knowing that you're paying Kirk Cousins, $15-20 million a year just to hold a clipboard and scream to everybody, do you like that? So that's where the business part of it comes in at as well. But I'm still not sold on Aiden O'Connell being out of the picture. Maybe not the number one, but a solid backup. And he made sure that he, the last drive was very exciting. The people said he was playing against the scrubs, but I don't think anybody in the NFL is a scrub. If you go out there and strap it on, you can play football. But, I would just go and say, hey, Kirk Cousins, you're our starter. We're just going to go with you the first couple of weeks, kind of still groom Mendoza for the job, and then just go at it right like that. You don't want to go out there and ruin this kid first off the back. And I don't know too many number one overall quarterbacks that was successful in their first year, maybe not even their second year. It took them a while, to get acclimated to the NFL, the ball game. And, obviously the kid has some promise. He has some good things going for himself. He's doing better under center. His play action pass was really good. He's hiding the ball well. So there's some good things that they can build on. But I wouldn't throw him out there in the fire in week one.
So if Clint Kubiak says that what Fernando needs the most is reps, how many reps should he get in preseason week 3 against the Niners?
You know what? I'll give him a quarter. Go out there and give him a quarter against with the number one receivers, just in case, he names him the starter. Week 1, at least he's got some reps with the number one receivers. I need to see everybody out there. I need to see Speedy out there. I need to see Trey Tucker out there. We don't know I don't know what that guy is doing. Bowers, he don't have to do anything. He can go over there and I'll buy him a hot dog and hamburger.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But, that guy has proven himself that he's going to be there on Sundays. But as far as the whole receiver core, I need to see all these guys get out there and gel together. I need to see blocking downfield. I need to see physicality from the outside point of view. I just need to see a whole lot of it. If I'm a receiver and the coach call out my receiver room like that, man, come on. That's a whole nother level, man. I remember Bud Carson calling us out in the secondary, man. We felt like our best friend had died. And that next day in practice, man, we were out there full throttle. And obviously ran on them. They didn't like him, but, man, he called us out, so we had to step up. And hopefully these guys take that serious when your coach calls you out. Man, that's I can't even say it on the TV. I can't even say it on radio, man. There might be some kids listening.
well, Mark, that's literally where I was going to go next. Like, I was just about to ask you, have you been called out? You just mentioned it right there. You said you obviously know Speedy. I'm not going to ask you to put your, to speak for him or the wide receivers as a whole, but based on what you know, Speedy, I mean, is the makeup there to where the response will be what Kubiak and the Raiders hope for?
Well, the makeup is definitely there. And, you figure Jalen was coming from the shadows of Jefferson in Minnesota, so all the targets were going toward Jefferson, all the criticism, everything was going toward him. He didn't have to be that guy. And now you bring in he's the top free agent for the Raiders. You're that guy, and you got to step up and show everybody why they gave you millions of dollars to set you and your family up for life. So, Trey Tucker, what is it? This is his last year on his contract. Usually those guys are a little bit hungrier. Some guys get paid, they kind of sit back on their tushy a little bit. But Speedy comes from a background that he's got a dog in him, and he's going to have to put that dog out there on display and get the coach off his back. You know, the whole receiver room should be like, man, let's get off my back. If I'm Trey Tucker, man, I'm like, there's a lot of money out here to be made. I need to be in every rep. I need to be a leader. I don't think Trey Tucker's our number one. He's not a one receiver to me personally. Maybe other people are like, he's not our number one. So if you're number two or slot guy, then you need to go out there and be the best that you can be. And, you know, young kid from TCU, what is it, Beck? He's probably having the best camp out of everybody. You know, this kid is physical. He just caught a touchdown, last week. So he's probably the best receiver in the room right now.
Yeah, Jack Besh. Mark McMillian with us here on the Morning Tailgate. 8-year NFL vet, Hall of Famer, all the things. But, Mighty Mac, got to know what's coming up. You always got your hand in the cookie jar. So what are you up to these days?
Man, I saw one of your listeners, man. He said he wanted some of that barbecue sauce. So whoever that guy is, man, we'll make sure he gets some hot sauce. But I've been working on this book, man. Me and my buddy Chuck, he's back in PA right now. He just sat down and said, "Hey, man, let's put this, pen to paper." So the book should be done by October, man. So we're excited about that, and hopefully people get it in their hands and kind of read over it, man. I think I read some of the script the other day in the coffee shop, and I was in there crying like a baby, and all the employees like, "Hey, Mark, are you okay?" I was like, just going through it from my grandmother to my mom, brothers and sisters, everybody that's in the book, man, and finally seeing it in words. Kind of hit home. So I'm just on page 20. I got like 200 and something pages to go. So man, I might be a bloody mess by the time I finish reading the book.
Well, I hope that book comes with a box of Kleenex then.
Yeah, so I'm excited for it, man. It's going to recap a lot of stuff from growing up to going to Alabama to, playing under Coach Gene Stallers to playing from the great Bud Carson to Marty Schottenheimer, playing with Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Derek Thomas, Eric Allen. There's so many guys in this book, man, that we mentioned I want to pay homage to because without those guys, there's no way I would have lasted 8 years in the National Football League. And praise God for keeping me safe through all those hard hits and concussions and all that. But we're here, man, and hopefully by October we'll have it out there. It'll be on Amazon and other, bookstores that'll be online as well. So I'll make sure you guys get a copy. Clay, I'll make sure you get one with the Eagles on there and probably sign it Lomas Brown for you.
Yeah, that's great. That's the way I want to best remember you. Me crying on New Year's Eve night as the Eagles go and destroy the Lions on a wild card game. Thanks, buddy, for the memories. I'll be crying too.
Mark McMillian, we appreciate you, brother. Look forward to seeing you in the press box on Thursday for the preseason finale.
Folks. Have a good one. Always good to see you out there too, Vinny. Have a safe trip wherever you land, man.
You too, brother. You too.
All right.
Great stuff from Mark McMillian. Great perspective. Obviously, relationship with Jalen Naylor, the perspective of being called out, the perspective of seeing guys go down like Ashton Jeanty did on Sunday. Really good stuff. So let's see how the team responds. Let's see the character of the group. Who is that next man up? 702-365-9200. The text line is abuzz. Get some of those before the hour is through. And we'll also keep the phone lines open. What do you have to say? Ashton Jeanty goes down. Who steps up? Wide receiver room. Who can be the guy out of that group? And what happens Thursday in the preseason finale? It's all coming up next here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the Morning Tailgate.
Some guys get paid. They kind of sit back on their tushy a little bit. But, the Speedy comes from a background that he's got a dog in him. And he's going to have to put that dog out there on display and get the coach off his back. The whole receiver room should be like, man, let's get off my back. If I'm Trey Tucker, man, I'm like, there's a lot of money out here to be made. I need to be in every rep. I need to be a leader. I don't think Trey Tucker's our number one. He's not a one receiver to me personally. Maybe other people are like, he's not our number one. So if you're number two or slot guy, then you need to go out there and be the best that you could be. And, the young kid from TCU, what is it, Beck? He's probably having the best camp out of everybody. This kid is physical. He just caught a touchdown, last week. So he's probably the best receiver in the room right now.
It's Mark McMillian coming back here on Raider Nation Radio, the morning tailgate. Vince, Vinny, and Clay. Thanks again to Mark for coming on and giving us perspective on the wide receiver room DBs and coming back with that, Vinny. You know, it reminded me of how Mark had told us about in days of yore, and not too distant past, is that when you would have trouble like that with the wide receiver room, you need to put some urgency into guys that you would start working out some dudes. On the side, the guys had just been like invited in to come out and just to kind of have them over on the side to kind of show like, listen, we are looking for answers. We believe it's in this room, but don't make us think about somebody else right now. We need to find somebody that can pop, and it's got to happen very quickly because the days leading up to Miami are getting closer.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is, guys need a fire lit under them, or it's a lack of effort or anything like that. For whatever reason, guys, they're just not getting the job done at a level that they need to get the job done. And it was pretty apparent to me watching them at practice that there was difficulty getting separation and all that type of thing. They just. I don't want to say that the wide receivers were non-existent, but you just didn't feel them, and you certainly didn't feel them in Houston. You didn't feel them in the Houston game, and it's just been kind of a glaring issue. And I've traveled to other outposts, and I've seen a bunch of other teams during the offseason and training camp this year, and you see teams that have that element. Now, saying that, obviously Brock Bowers is the guy that pops day in and day out, and there's no question about that. It's just, and I've been saying this for a while, and I know the Raiders understand this, and sometimes you're between a rock and a hard place. You just can't address every single need, and one of the needs that they have moving forward, and it's glaring, is whether you want to call it a difference-making wide receiver, whether that's at X, in the wherever. You need a difference-making wide receiver, and right now I see some role player wide receivers and not a difference maker wide receiver.
From the text line at 702-365-9200, Raiders 67 chiming in about the wide receivers, saying the wide receiver room 2 will be fine because they don't have to be prolific. The 5 to 6 wide receivers we keep will do their job. They'll perform admirably, but again, contingent still on the offensive line play. Brandon Johnson's catch at the 1 with 15 seconds to go to play was all hands, total concentration, and perfectly timed elevation. Wink, wink. All right, thanks, Raider 67 on that. Does the wide receiver room have to be prolific starting out?
I don't know about prolific. I don't expect prolific, so you're going to have to make do. But you do need a prolific wide receiver. You need prolific production at wide receiver. The best teams put max. That's why, like we said, the New England Patriots went to the Super Bowl. What'd they do? Who'd they trade for this offseason? A.J. Brown. I'll answer the question. A.J. Brown, right? The wide receiver from the fifth. They understood they needed an upgrade at wide receiver. The Buffalo Bills made the AFC Championship game. What did they do? They traded for the wide receiver from the Chicago Bears. The Denver Broncos. Yeah. DJ Moore. The Denver Broncos, went to the AFC Championship game. Probably would have gone to the Super Bowl had their quarterback been healthy in that AFC Championship game. What did they do? They went out and got Jalen Waddle, and that was on a team that went to the AFC Championship game. Every team that I'm talking about went to the playoffs, last year. But they understood we need to upgrade at wide receiver. We need to go get, hopefully, some sort of a prolific type of a guy. I'm not saying that Moore is going to be prolific, but he's a pretty darn good wide receiver. Jalen Waddle's had some really good seasons. Brown has had some big seasons. We'll see now what he does in that system. But it shows you how valuable, critical, important big-time wide receivers are, even for teams that were otherwise good that need to take another step forward. You're looking for that because, as I keep saying, the goal is to put maximum amount of pressure on the opposing defense and create as many favorable matchups as possible. Who cares if Brock Bowers is doing his thing and drawing double coverage and freeing up other guys if those guys aren't able to take advantage of being freed up? That's the thing. That's the issue right now, is that even with, we're not suggesting, because Brock hasn't played in the preseason, so we haven't seen that in real time. But in practices, I saw that in Houston, and the Texans were paying attention to Brock Bowers. They weren't out there just working on their stuff. They were trying to beat the Raiders in those practices and win reps, and they were designing defenses to make sure that Brock didn't get the best of him. He got the best of him one time, on that there was double coverage over on his side. It was just a very well-run play. But if you can't take advantage of that as a wide receiver, if you can't take advantage of the fact that Brock Bowers is drawing, a considerable amount of defensive focus, and you're still not able to thrive or at least produce at that level. And I think that's exactly what Clint Kubiak is talking about. This is being handed to you on a silver platter. You're not going to get double teamed. That's going to be the defense that's set aside for Brock Bowers. So therefore, you should have room to operate. Now it's on you to take advantage of that, and right now nobody is.
Andrew Janocko, the offensive coordinator for the Raiders, spoke yesterday at the Raiders facility about the wide receiver room.
He's talking about that group. I think, you talk about any group and apply the same aspects, but from the receiver position specifically, what we're looking for is guys to get off the ball at the right tempo, guys to get their precise depths, guys to make sure that their break points are correct, and then guys that make moment of truth plays. That's anything, and that's specific to that room, but it's what we're asking every position.
Andrew Janocko, the moment of truth plays. So there's big plays that are designed, but I think it seems as though that the separation is not where they need it to be.
Well, when he's talking about being able to get off the line of scrimmage precisely the way we want you to get off and run the routes that we want you to run, precisely as we want you to run off. Those are big things that he's saying right there. It may seem small, but they're not small. We always tell that story about Deebo Samuel up in San Francisco or Santa Clara. We'll throw that out for Fabian, and why he was wearing the visor, and people thought it was because he was trying to keep the sun out. Well, in reality, his first experiences with Kyle Shanahan was barking on him. When I say I need you to be 1 yard off of the, when I need you to run your route 5 yards and make your cut right here in front of the hashtag, 1 inch from the hashtag, that's what I'm telling you to do. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to be on your ass all the time about it. And he was. And he's like, so I'm wearing that visor not because I'm keeping the sun out. I'm like cussing my coach. Like, are we really being this serious about things? And he goes, and slowly but surely I realized what the heck he was talking about and how much better I was and more productive I was by doing it precisely as it's drawn up, because your quarterback is relying on it. This is a timing-based offense, as all offenses are. But speaking specifically about the Raiders offense, it is a timing, mechanized offense. And the quarterback is relying on you to be exactly where you're supposed to be, the way it's drawn up, the way he's thinking that you're going to be there, because guess what? That's where he's throwing the football. And if you're not there, then the whole play goes out of whack, and a lot of times that falls on the quarterback, but oftentimes it's because the wide receiver wasn't where you're supposed to be, wasn't supposed to be. And so when Andrew Janocko is talking about those finer points right now, that's a little bit of a problem for me, because it tells me that not everyone has gotten it yet in terms of getting off the line of scrimmage and running the routes the way the routes are drawn up.
The text from East Bay Raider Great talked about Mendoza's pick six, and he noted that a comment from Chase Daniels breakdown of that play, saying that it was Jalen Naylor ran the sail route, but he should have flattened the route out to open up the area. That has been looked at a couple times as far as Mendoza looking down that way, but waiting for him to kind of get to the open part of the field. That can't happen. I mean, obviously this is a preseason game, but after a while, you're seeing that there could be plays on the field, and it's the quarterback that takes the brunt of that, because he feels the heat coming up towards him, from coming up from the center position, and he eventually throws the check down to Washington that gets returned for a touchdown. But there are little glimpses of exactly what you're talking about, that they're not exactly where they should be. They're close to it, but they're not getting to the open part of the field like they need to. And there's a big combination of things that are kind of like not being checked all the way. We're not seeing like a full complete game from guys and veteran wide receivers that have been in the league just long enough to know a little better.
Well, and going back to the Fernando interception, two things can be true at the same time. Jalen Naylor, according to some people that know what they're talking about, wasn't where he needed to be. All right, so and you can clearly see Fernando looking and then checking down.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's mistake number one. But any good coach will tell you, and any great quarterback has to understand this: you don't make a negative into a double negative. You try to bail the play out, even if it means throwing the ball out of bounds right it there or eating it for a sack, whatever the case might be. And the thing is, he also did have another option to the left of him out on the flat to go to right there, and that's probably the decision that he should have made. So he compounded the issue, the original issue, by making an even bigger mistake. And say what you want about where Mike Washington should have been or was or lead or whatever the case might be. It was a bad decision to make that throw, and the throw wasn't good. I don't care where Mike was supposed to be or anything like that. It just wasn't a very well thrown ball. And so what Fernando did was he took a bad play and obviously made it worse, and that's a learning experience for him. But the point is taken that he was the original play was to go somewhere else with the ball, but that was unavailable to him, and it seems like or sounds like, based on people who know what they're seeing and have done this for a living, it's because the wide receiver wasn't where he was supposed to be originally.
All right. When Mark McMillian kind of talked about what could be there for this coming Thursday against the Niners, he wanted to see all the wide receivers out there getting reps and trying to prove everyone wrong that they are understanding the concepts and they are getting where they need to be. How important is that for those kind of reps to happen on Thursday?
You're not going to see any of those starting wide receivers on Thursday. I'd be shocked, especially after the Ashton Jeanty injury. They got to be doing it in practice. But here's the thing: the season opener is right around the corner, so they better be ready come the season opener. I wouldn't expect them to play on Thursday night. The risk reward is just too great. Now maybe Clint sees it a little bit differently than I do, and bucks a trend. We shall see. But I would be surprised if any of the starters were out there come Thursday night.
So you're thinking more of like Shedrick Jackson, Noah Brown, E.J. Williams, stuff like that?
Guys that are probably going to be on your practice squad or not even part of the program moving forward. Yeah.
Okay. Before we take a break, we will get some final thoughts on the final sit down here as well. What did you think about just kind of like getting more reps for Fernando as you start looking at Thursday, and of course having that lingering concern of like, all right, how worried are we about injuries at this point of the season, especially in a definitely meaningless game for the starters on Thursday? Yeah,
I don't know, and that will be it will be interesting if the any kind of rep for Fernando is valuable at this point. But I don't know. I got to see. I would think that he's going to be out there, but I'm not totally committed to him being out there, especially if he's going to be the number 2 quarterback. Maybe just put him in bubble wrap and everybody else in bubble wrap, and then use this next week and a half or so, 2 weeks of practice to really hone in. You're going to start game planning. That makes a huge difference in all of this. Right now they're kind of flying by the seat of their pants in games. It'll be great to see them start game planning and putting together a game plan for whoever the quarterback is and whatever wide receivers step up or whatever that group looks like for the season opener. So I don't know if we're going to see Fernando. I'm curious what Clint has to say about it tomorrow. But I could see it going either way.
We'll come back with the final sit down here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920, but we'll open up the phones and give you a chance to win a pair of tickets for Saturday's showdown at Allegiant Stadium. That's UNLV football, the home opener against Memphis. That's August 29th on Saturday. We have a pair of tickets here for you at Lotus Broadcasting. You got to pick them up before Friday at 5 p.m. Be caller number 9 at 702-365-9200. It's the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
Oh, Paisan. Oh! Back up. I'll talk to him about it. I've been telling you for months now this guy's no good. I want to sit down. All right. Answer the phone. I want to sit down.
On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Oh! Thanks for being with us here on Raider Nation Radio 920, the Morning Tailgate. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker here with you. With our final sit-down, I wanted to play this piece of audio because people have been kind of asking for it and alluding to it in their thoughts about Fernando Mendoza, the pick 6 from Thursday, and what Chase Daniels had to say about what he saw downfield and what he didn't like about where the wide receivers were at. This is a clip from Chase Daniels' account. You can follow him up on X at Chase Daniel, and he talks about what he liked about Fernando, and he didn't feel like it, the pick 6 wasn't as badly as you think.
What are you going to do? You're running a cup route. A cup route is a corner and a pylon. Watch his feet, though. When your first hitch is sideways and not up, never a good thing. And this angle by Jalen Naylor sort of screws Fernando a little bit, but when you're on your fourth hitch and you throw in the middle of the field, never a good thing. So you have this, just step up in the pocket, 2-hitch, understand that Naylor's taking a wrong angle, check it down right away. All right, and then we got this other play we're going to show you here. Route concept, very similar, 3x1. It's a corner and a pylon pup route. He has a really good pocket. Okay, Naylor goes to the sideline. They understand, hey, let's take this as a flatter angle. He's able to throw this in on third down. He takes a flat angle, steps up in the pocket, not sideways, and really finishes through. Look, it's all about reps for Fernando Mendoza under center. He had 8 reps under center last night, 6 in his entire college career. So it's all about reps. You got to keep getting better. And when you can do that and learn in real time and fix a mistake from first quarter to second quarter, that's growth.
That's Chase Daniel on his perspective on Mendoza's game so far, and he keeps seeing it each and every week. And he's talked a lot about Mendoza throughout the offseason leading up to this point. So he's somebody that's been watching every rep and all the snaps. What did you make of that as he starts to see, how these wide receiver groupings are developing, but at the same time, you start to see that maybe Fernando is growing a little bit faster than the wide receiver group, and that can't be a good thing all the way around.
Well, you'll take the good with the good, with the bad, I guess, and having your first pick overall quarterback advancing at a rapid pace, I believe, I think trumps everything. You'll fix the wide receivers. That's something that you're going to check off the box. Is it a problem initially? Well, he still has Brock Bowers, so there's that, and Michael Mayer, and so they'll have to cobble it together at wide receiver. But the bigger point is that Fernando Mendoza is advancing at a nice clip, is exactly where he needs to be, if not, a little bit further advanced down the road. So, the mistakes are correctable. There's no unsolvable issue here for Fernando. You just can't make that throw to the middle of the field right now as your fourth read when your footwork isn't where it needs to be. That's stuff that he's going to learn, and he's already shown in other instances where something similar might have happened, or for whatever reason he had to go to his fourth read. He stood there, got his feet set, and delivered really good throws with conviction and confidence. So I like where Fernando is. I really have no worries about him. I'm with Clint Kubiak. It's just a matter of getting out there and reps. And here's the thing. Raider Nation fans, all that, you're going to have to learn to live with this learning curve. Whenever he actually does get out there, there will be a learning curve. It's not going to be perfect. And I just hope that fans understand that this is going to take some time. You don't just step into the league. Rare occasions where you're just a dominant quarterback day one in the NFL. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I think that time is what he has. Time is what this organization has, and it's going to be good sooner rather than later. And you're just going to have to be able to be okay sometimes with things like that happen on Thursday night. But guess what? Matthew Stafford has thrown 32 pick-six interceptions. You know who he's tied with? Brett Favre. Both of those guys have Super Bowl rings, MVPs, multiple playoffs. They're Hall of Fame players. Those are the two most pick-six quarterbacks in the NFL. Matthew Stafford and Brett Favre. Yeah, some of that is just longevity, that they played a long time, but it just shows you that no matter how long you play, no matter how good you are, mistakes are going to happen. Sometimes the catastrophic kind where you get interceptions returned for touchdowns. It happens to everybody. Nobody's immune to it.
A couple last thoughts as people were thinking about prospective running backs that could be out there to bring in. There's been a couple that have retired. Today, earlier this morning, we started to see it become official that Nick Chubb, a running back, has retired. And Joe Mixon around the league has been telling people around him that he's close to just announcing that he's going to retire as well. So the number of other free agent running backs are out there that have seen greatness before, they're on the short list.
Yeah, and the first thing you got to figure out is, all right, how long is this injury going to be? Realistically, from your medical staff, does it warrant going out and trying to talk a Joe Mixon out of retirement? And now I'll say this: if you're going to come try to talk somebody out of retirement, they're usually going to say, okay, well, what's the money going to be like? Convince me. Make it a compelling offer that what I want to do, which is retire, is not what I should do because you're offering me enough money. So you got to think about that as well. But I would imagine they're going to bring somebody in, if not just for a camp body, a depth piece, or maybe if it's a prolonged injury, somebody of a Joe Mixon type.
All right. Go up online to lvsportsnetwork.com. You can also find the app. It's free to use, free to download. LV Sports Network. It has all our streaming options available, as well as all our podcasts. And go up to YouTube, Raider Nation Radio 920 AM, and you can follow along all the great coverage that Brandy and Q have done over the past few weeks and months leading up to where we're at now. Make sure you check it out, Raider Nation Radio 920. Subscribe today. For Vince, for Vinny, I'm Clay. Have a great day, everybody. Westwood One is next.